Hey, MadLab Nation, how you guys doing? Greg Mack here, Rainmaker 201. Hey, got a question for you. In sports, when is the game over? Right? How do you determine the end of the game? Well, in some sports, like racquetball, first to 21, win by 2, right? In chess, it's when you take the other person's king and queen, or not a chess player, so it's one of those two, right? In some sports, it's whoever's got the most points when the time runs out. In the face-to-face consultation, when is it over? Well, unfortunately, sometimes it's when the time runs out, right? If you've only allotted 60 minutes, 75 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever you've allotted, and you've backed it up against a personal training session or a group class you got to teach, sometimes that can drive the ending. But really, unfortunately, the end should be determined not by points or by time, but by a decision. And we're insisting in this particular system that a decision be made. We're trying to avoid the old, I want to think about it, let me get back to you, I'm shopping around, maybe, maybe not, thanks for your time, give me your business card, right? We can't live with that. We can't. We need a decision. And so the end of the sales consultation, the interview, the face-to-face, is when you get a yes or a no. On moving to the next step, that's when you know it's over. Now, we have a third option, right, which is the definite future, which we define as both parties know specifically what day and time they're going to follow up. It's an appointment written down in both people's schedules. You know what the subject of that conversation is and what decision will be made at the end. Now you have a definite future. So that's another legitimate outcome. But even that is what? Moving you towards a specific decision, yes, no, on moving forward in the relationship, whatever your next step is, which might be an assessment. And so you can't stop until you get a yes or a no and insist on it. Now, the prospect, the suspect, well, it's a prospect, right? If they're in a face-to-face, because you don't set face-to-face appointments and give up an hour of your precious time to a suspect. For the prospect, they're not really used to this, right? They're used to just shucking and jiving around and dodging and doing a matrix move on you to try to keep from such a clear level of commitment. So you really got to dig in and hold on to the value system of getting a yes or a no, and anything other than that is just simply not acceptable. And if even after you set up rules in the beginning where you're insisting on a yes or a no, you're getting rid of I want to think it over by insisting on a yes or a no, you've ensured that the decision makers are all there to make sure that no one can say, I'll call you when I talk to so-and-so in 2 weeks. And yet still you get to the end and sometimes you see a lot of what? Jucking and jiving and moving around and a failure to really commit to a decision, yes or no. So if they choose not to say yes, whatever they say is a no. And so when you're at the end of a consultation and you've done your job and you've done all the things you're supposed to do, and if you haven't taken Rainmaker 201, I got to tell you, you got to take Rainmaker 201 if you're listening to this. Go onto the web hub and get that thing ordered so you can understand a little bit more detail and process about what I'm sharing in these podcasts. When you get to the end and your prospect is still saying, I want to think about it, right? Even though they've agreed up front that they don't want to think about it and they're going to tell you yes or no, and they get near the end and they're not saying yes or no, whatever they're saying is a no. And you're going to tell them that. You're going to say, look, we agreed up front, right? That it would just be a simple yes or no. I've given you everything you need to know today to make a decision. There's no other information available. And so I don't know why you're not saying yes or no, but if you can't say yes, then whatever you're saying is a no to me right now. So I'm saying no. Is that okay? And so this is how you're going to end this thing when it's not a clear yes or no. and see what they do as they move towards that. And so dig your feet in the sand, set your feet in concrete, don't get emotional upset, insist on your value system in this process, which is clear decision at the end, yes or no. And things are going to go a lot better for you. Now, they might get a little upset and a little frustrated, and you're going to nurture that and say, look, I understand, but you have to understand as well, right? Because you have rights in this transaction as much as they do. And again, the prospect's not used to that. They're used to just walking over most people in sales transactions, right? And if they're not going to honor your needs, then we got a problem, and maybe you don't want them in your practice anyway, right? That could be what you're finding out. And so that's my message today in today's podcast is when you get to the end, yes or no is when the game is over. Nothing else will do, except maybe a definite future. Some things end in a tie, right? And you got to play it again maybe later. But even that's going to end in a yes or no. All roads lead to yes or no.